Oh, howdy, YouTube. I am TWERKFFXIV. I'm here with my reaction to NoClip's Final Fantasy XIV documentary, Part 1, 1.0. I am a new player to Final Fantasy XIV, having only recently completed base ARR, still have the patch content to go through. And this game has been absolutely wonderful to play and experience, but also its history with development, its 1.0 to 2.0 journey is just so interesting, because in all honesty, a game like that should never have gotten a second chance. Like in our modern gaming world, very rarely do second chances are they given. And so it's so interesting that not only did they get the second chance, but they got the second chance and they freaking flourished with it. I mean, we're in 2023, and I'd say this is probably the most popular MMO out there right now. So for them to get to this point is so wild based on how they started. And so this documentary has been recommended a bunch, and I'm very excited to watch this and get a reaction for y'all to it. So let's get into it. We're in for the long haul. I got my water. We're here. Let's freaking do it. All right, subtitles. I like how they're just like giving everyone a heads up on that. I wonder if I have to do that. I love this music so much.
Square is buried deep into the culture of Japan. Originally a spin-off from Masafumi Miyamoto's father's powerline construction firm, for over 30 years its games have helped power the rise of Japanese games development. There are no shortage of games that live under the Square Enix banner, but none as big as Final Fantasy. From our Western perspective, there's an air of mythos around the company. The accepted truth behind the series' title is that it was named Final Fantasy as it was Square's make-or-break game to avoid impending bankruptcy. And even if the
So real quick, I'm gonna interrupt real quick. Final Fantasy XIV is my very first Final Fantasy game, for more context there. So as this is gonna talk about, you know, some of the origins of Final Fantasy, I guess in general with the series, I'm pretty in the dark about a lot of it. So just to lay a little more context there. All right, let's get back to it. Sorry.
The real answer has more to do with creating an acronym that could be pronounced by both Eastern and Western audiences. It's that first story that gets told. That's the legacy of this series. Stories about adventures that get passed from generation to generation. As nearby as the arcades of Akihabara and as far as the playgrounds of Europe. As the Final Fantasy series has moved from numeral to numeral, there have been high points and low. But with each new game comes the promise of a new story, a new myth. The story of what happened with Final Fantasy XIV is one such myth. What we know about it comes from old reviews, archived message board threads, and through conversations with those who were there. The reason for this is that the original version of Final Fantasy XIV doesn't exist anymore. Unlike the vast majority of other old games, there is no way of playing it. It was redacted, painted over. Where once stood a game that threatened to sink the Final Fantasy brand forever, now stands the second most popular subscription MMO in the world. And as the years pass us, the myth of that original version and its incredible redemption story are at risk of disappearing. How did it all happen? How did the same studio that shipped a broken mess turn it all around in 2 years? Why did they make the decision to keep the old version still alive while secretly working on a brand new game? And how did they manage to make all of this, the redesign and rebirth, part of the game's lore? We knew this was a story worth telling.
That's so cool! That's so cool! Oh my gosh, the 1.0 views of Dalamud coming down. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? A lot of you don't have to imagine because you were there for it. Y'all are legacy players, but at the same time, like, that's so cool to have been there in person to see this.
Down, but for the millions of you who have never heard about this, who never knew the extraordinary lengths the development team went to save this game. So we did just that. Pack your bags, friends. NoClip is heading to Tokyo.
I'm so excited for this. NoClip, let's fucking go. kind of adjusting volume over here. Make sure things aren't too loud. The death and rebirth of Final Fantasy XIV Online. Amazing. I mean, honestly, yeah. The fact that again, the developmental history of this game is just, it's absolutely mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling just how they were able to turn this game around. Oh, that's so cool. That was awesome. Oh man. So for some context too, because I'm still getting my gameplay up on YouTube as well, I have done Coils of Bahamut on Twitch on stream, and that was nuts. That was nuts. Oh my gosh. I will be reacting to the Flames of Truth trailer soon enough too, in full, after finishing Coils, because that was an incredible raid and story, and revelations there too at that, as we talk about Rebirth. Louis Soir. Part 1, 1.0.
Hello,
Oh my
welcome
god.
to Shinjuku, Tokyo, home of Godzilla, restaurants full of dancing robots, and Square Enix, one of the most prolific video game companies in the world.
For the past few months, I've been playing catch-up with this story, playing the latest version of the game, talking to players, and watching community retrospective series like the Speakers Network's fantastic Fall and Rise of Final Fantasy XIV.
Ooh.
My goal, to make sure we
Check
asked the
that
right
out.
questions when we sat down with the team. During our time here in Shinjuku, we're going to talk to
So they
everyone from the engineers who worked on the original
really
game
go.
to localization leads, community managers, and even the CEO of the company.
They really,
All to allow
wow.
them the opportunity to tell their side of this fascinating
I didn't realize that they were
story.
actually going to talk
The
to
Fall and
everybody.
Rise of Final Fantasy XIV
That's
happened
awesome.
in real time in front of millions of people around the world.
Oh,
But
this
we
is gonna
wanted
be
to know
good.
about this story from an entirely new perspective, from inside the corporate machine that made it happen, that led to its terrible launch and ultimately its incredible rebirth.
My name is Michael Christopher Koji-Fonks. I am the English localization lead for Final Fantasy XIV. And my middle name being Koji, it's not something I gave myself, it's a name my father gave me. My father was stationed in Japan for 2 years in the Navy when he was young. Went back to the States. My mom had me. They wanted to give me a Japanese name. The family was having none of that, so they kind of snuck it in the middle name. But then they always called me Koji, and so I guess the joke was on the rest of the family. You know, my dad, being in the Navy, didn't really learn a lot about Japan, other than he really liked Japan, but didn't learn any of the language. So I always knew that my name was Japanese, but beyond that, I really didn't know anything about Japan. But there was always that little seed in there. And then when I got into high school, there's a Japanese class, and I like games. Oh, they make games in Japan. Hey, let me study Japanese. If I study Japanese, I can play all those cool Japanese games that never come out over in America. And it kind of just snowballed from there. When I graduated from high school,
love that.
I took a trip to Japan for 3 weeks, homestay type of thing, and I fell in love with it. And during that period, I got to visit a lot of schools and a lot of English classes in those schools. And I thought, wow, I know English. I could do this. This will be easy. It wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, but I studied a couple years at a university in America, then transferred over to Japan, started over 4 years at a university in Japan.
Wow.
Got my teaching license, and yeah.
It's hard work being a teacher.
Yes, I mean, I loved it, but I mean, it was very draining, and that's why pretty much after you'd go to school 6 in the morning for morning basketball practice, because I was the basketball coach, because as my principal said, hey, you're
It's too
tall.
early.
You're the basketball coach.
I'm not a
Then
morning
get into
person. I don't function
classes,
before 10
and
a.m.
I'd have my homeroom class, then I'd have 6 or 7 other classes teaching. Then you'd have after school. All of a sudden, it's there's after school basketball, and then you'd get home and you'd correct. So I was really.
I love the
always at
tennis.
school
I've
every
played
day. It
tennis
was very
for
draining,
16
and
years.
I
Fun
would
little
go
fact
home
about
and
me. So I love seeing
I
those
would
little
play
clips of that.
FF11. It was how I was able to relax, and being able to go into my little room and turn off the lights and put on my headphones and get into that world of Vana'diel was something that helped me escape from the stress. And then it just happened to be, one day I was online, checking for 11 related information, and I saw that Square Enix was looking for a translator, and it just kind of, wow, that would be really cool.
Yeah, it would. It would be really
Koji
cool.
wasn't alone. Final Fantasy XIV was launched in 2010, but the story of this game starts 8 years earlier with the launch of Final Fantasy XI, Square's first MMO, the early days of online. Many of the team who worked on 14 started on 11. One of those was Kasuga-san, who joined the company in 1999 to build a network infrastructure for this fledgling MMO.
と自分はネットワークとサーバー担当で入っていて、なので一番最初にやっていたのが、
okay, yeah, so I need to turn the subtitles on. I got you. I understand now. I understand what that meant at the very beginning. Sweet. Okay, let me back up just a smidge.
Structure for this fledgling MMO.
と自分はネットワークとサーバー担当で入っていて、なので一番最初にやっていたのが、当時プレイステーション2で初めて、厳密にはドリームキャストがその前にあるんですけれども、プレイステーションプラットフォームとしては
Dreamcast had
オンライ
online?
ン要
I
素
didn't
が
know that.
入った初めての時期だったので、
That's wild.
プレイステーション2でネットワークを作るために、TCP/IP のドライバーを作ったりとか、まだ当時モデム通信の時代だったんで、PPP 通信とか、あと ADSL がちょうど普及し始めた時期だったんで、ADSL の認証として使われた PPP を
All these networking
本当にネットワークの
internet terms, I know nothing of what any of that means. ADSL?
書くっていう担当で入社してました。
11に関して言うとね、スクエアエニックスって言いますか、スクエアが初めて、オンラインのあれだけの規模の
I can't believe they got an interview with the CEO and everyone. That's impressive.
いやもう正直いろんなことがありましたね当時ね。こんな言っちゃっていいのかな。言っちゃっていいの。
Looks at PR and labs.
どういうことがあったかというと、あの時はMMO と
Oh my
かね、
gosh.
ウルティマとかそういった先行事例あるんで。
We've come such a long way in our games, in our
で
MMOs.
やるなんてもう無謀の極みだとかってね、もうたくさんそういうふうに言われました。
Yeah, MMO on consoles is just such a wild concept. I feel like even still.
ハードディスク
I know Final Fantasy XIV's on PS4, PS5, and coming to Xbox.
ほとんど不可能だとか。
But even still, like I'm a World of Warcraft
11 was my
veteran,
first MMO. I hadn't played one before.
And
I
so-
remember purchasing
and
the
that's
PlayStation
definitely not
2
on console.
broadband unit because they were all sold out.
Star
It
Wars:
ended
The
up
Old
being
Republic,
double
not on
on like some
console.
Yahoo auction or something like that. Ridiculous, but I had to play it. We got a new internet connection. We were on a regular modem at the
So,
time, but because
the-
you
the idea of
needed a
like
new
one of
modem,
those
we had
being
to
on
upgrade to
consoles blows my mind.
ISDN
Even though like Final Fantasy XIV, like
128,
from
But yeah,
like
it was definitely worth it. It was something that was completely new
mechanically
to me, but,
speaking, in terms of
fascinating.
gameplay
And ever since then,
functionality,
I've,
it plays
been
very
into MMOs.
similarly
That was the
to
gateway
those
drug
two.
for me, going into
So,
FF11 and then trying,
like,
some of the Western MMOs as well, getting into World
At
of
this
Warcraft,
point,
seeing the
it feels like
differences,
it's almost
between the
wild
two.
that
Personally, I think it's very different.
WoW
I
and
mean,
SWTOR
here in
have not
Japan
made the
from
move to
Western
console,
market,
but-
because, yeah, it is for everyone in the globe. I mean, it's very first MMORPG on the console, PlayStation 2, and also, I mean, it was the first ever cross-platform MMO
And cross-platform
between
MMO.
PlayStation 2 and the Xbox 360. The obvious
That's
one
nuts.
is the most Japanese people don't really like to chat in public.
Right.
So, I mean, in the world, there's a lot of characters, but it's very quiet because people are using a tail instead of the say or shout.
Oh, okay.
If you go to the Western world, game world, I mean, every single one is shouting around. So yeah, that's a huge difference.
If you're in World of
In the
Warcraft, you
West,
enter into
had
a
your
city looking
EverQuest,
for group,
your
looking for
Ultima
group.
Onlines. In Japan, there was none
Thunder
of that.
Fury, Thunder Fury,
And then,
Thunder
so
Fury.
Final
It's
Fantasy XI
everywhere.
was really one of the first MMOs in Japan, and so getting to work with basically the pioneers of the Japanese MMO was really exciting. On the other hand, I mean, you could also say that it was possibly kind of a curse, in the sense that they were all, doing their own thing. They had their vision of what an MMO should be.
Yeah.
And what a Japanese MMO should be.
Yeah.
And then me, again, not having played an MMO before, getting on this team and thinking, okay, this is an MMO, and translating away and working in that project, I kind of, started thinking, okay, this is what an MMO is, this is what an MMO is. And then that one day I start playing WoW and it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Seeing the differences between the two and saying like, okay, what I thought was the norm in Final Fantasy XI, you know, the grinding for 20 hours to go up one level and then only to have your level drop when you know, pull too many crabs and
Your
it kills
level
you and you've
could
lost
drop
5 hours work. Like, I thought that was
in
normal.
11?
And he's like, that's
Oh
not
my
normal, is it?"
gosh.
The Japanese base game
No.
Final Fantasy XI had already released, and they were working on the first expansion pack, Rise of the Zalart. I was part
That
of
pains
the team
me.
that was working to get the base game and Rise of Zalart all translated before the Japanese Rise of Zalart was finished, so we could all release at the same time.
Right. Did you get it on time?
I got it on time. I haven't missed a deadline yet. That's one thing I'm proud of.
Honestly, in the
Final
game industry,
Fantasy
that's
XI
impressive.
was a huge success for Square Enix. It established a concurrent user base of around 250,000 players for years.
It's not
it was the
bad.
most profitable Final Fantasy game ever, and at one stage was the 6th most popular game on all of Xbox Live.
Wow.
More than that, it established the Japanese style of MMO.
I'm gonna be honest with you,
and
I
when the
didn't know
decision was made in
Final Fantasy
2005
XI
to
was
start
an
working on a
MMO
sequel,
until
the new MMO was built around things that made 11 successful.
past couple of months.
Focusing, like most Final Fantasy games do, on beautiful graphics and an interesting battle system.
That-
This new game was to be directed and produced by the same duo that shipped 11, series veteran Hiromichi Tanaka and Nobuaki Komodo. Final Fantasy XIV was announced for Windows and PlayStation 3 in 2009, but behind the scenes the development team was struggling to put the pieces of its new world together.
ファイナルファンタジー14のその最初のバージョンの、自分が見た時の一番大きな問題点、最終的にそれが問題だったと考えているものっていうのは、その最初のコンセプトとしてそのプランナーがスクリプトを書くことによって
Endless nerd.
ゲームを作っていこうで、利点としては、プランナーが考えて自分たちで実装するんで、高速な開発ができる。要はそうじゃないと基本的にはプランナーさんはものを考えて開発者にエンジニアに相談してどう実装するかを決めて、でゲームデザインをする人はそのどういうパラメータをいじりたいかとかを相談しながらエンジニアと話をしてものを作っていかなきゃいけないんですけれども、そこの部分に関してスクリプトを導入すると自分で考えて自分で実現することができるようになるっていう発想で、ゲーム実装の大半がスクリプトで組まれてたんですね。でそのスクリプト UI の問題もそうなんですけれども、ゲームも UI も基本的にはスクリプトで書かれていて、でスクリプトを動かすエンジン側がかなり負荷が高いというか CPU をたくさん使わないと動かない状態になっているんで、ちょっとした何かをするだけでもゲーム内で少し何かをするだけでも非常に CPU リソースを使うことになっていて、すぐにサーバーが回るサイクルが遅くなっていくっていうことが問題として発生していました。で結果としてそのサーバーでできることは少ない、あとゲームとしてサーバーで実現できるところは少ないですし、何かしようとすると負荷が上がっちゃうので、
Man,
じゃあ
that's
それを回避するために
older.
どう
It's
しよう
come
と
such
か
a
っていうこと
long
で
way.
結果的にそのゲーム内容としてリッチなものが実現できなくなる。
Of course, it's in a new engine
で UI もスクリプトで組まれている
from
の
where
で、
it started,
なん
but
かちょっと処
still.
理するだけでもすごい時間がかかるっていうような問題が発生していました。
Like I mentioned before, again,
All those script
localization
issues,
being in a position where we get to see all the parts come together first. We were
That's
some of the
wild.
first to realize
Can't
that,
imagine.
you know, Houston, we have a problem. That type of situation. I mean, you know, you had the battle team. They're like, yes, we have this great battle system, you know, with stamina and these things that you can do. And then you had the story team. Yes, we have this story. Oh, hey, we have these guild leads and all of these parts. And everyone was really, really proud of their parts. You know, look at this grass. It's so beautiful. Look at this barrel. It's the, you know, the most beautiful barrel ever to be, you know, represented in graphical form.
It's got as many
And-
polygons as the character.
Yes, and all of those parts. You know,
Heard
all of these
about
teams,
that.
Again, very, very proud of their work. I mean, you have, the team was, you know, put together some of the best minds in Square Enix. You had people that were, you know, leads
Such a small
that could
aetherite
probably
crystal.
even, you know, lead their own projects, were all come together, and it became a lot of just tiny little groups making something that was really great. But once you put it together, it was kind of a mess. And no one really knew that, except for localization and probably QA as well. And we're like, okay, we need to do something. But by then it was one of those, it's kind of too late to do anything. But
Yeah.
for us, we'd be
Slam
looking at
in.
the text, and some of it,
Oh,
it wouldn't
cool.
make sense, or it would just
I didn't
be
realize
really
she was in
bland.
1.0.
I'm thinking, if there's any way to make this game
I don't know
better,
what
can we
characters
do?
were and
Well,
weren't
I can take
in
this text
1.0
and maybe
compared
add
to
some
where
more
they're at
stuff
in
into it,
ARR.
add some more flavor to it, and, maybe that will.
I'm assuming there's
distract
plenty of
people from the fact
carryover, but
that
at the same
the
time, I
battle
don't know what the
is
carryover is, you know?
At a fundamental level, the piecemeal design of the game was causing problems.
So it's cool to see
Graphics were inconsistent, while many elements of the world
those
were
characters
copy and
coming
pasted ad
over
nauseam.
still.
Some environmental objects had as many polygons and shaders as a character model. The battle system was just confusing. The game didn't have elements fundamental to most modern MMOs, things like jumping, auto attack, and the
Yeah, the
ability
fact
to
there's no-
interact with the map
there
using
wasn't
a mouse.
jumping or
It had a
auto
system
attack
that nerfed hardcore players to make
blows
sure
my
they
mind.
didn't level up too fast. The UI was confusing. Crafting was incredibly complex and took forever. And simply, there just wasn't enough content. The closed beta wasn't going well. They needed more time to fix
Honestly,
these
for
problems, so the open beta was
2010?
pushed back to within a month before launch. The team knew there were problems, and
Oh,
they were
I
getting
love
frustrated.
that.
で今まで話していた
Yeah, for 2010, the game
仕
looks
事って
pretty
いうのは
good
大体その
graphically,
2010年の
which I guess
1
that's
月か
part
ら
of the issue of why it was
まあ
so
実際にリリース
intensive
される
on things with all the
8月ぐらいま
polygons.
での間にやっていたことで、ゲームが本当に良くないっていうのがこう、みんなに認識されて自覚されていくっていうのは結局ベータが始まって製品版が始まってっていう、8月9月10月ぐらいまでの期間に起きたことなんですね。で実際にはこうチーム内の意識としてもリリース前、そのベータが始まる前から本当にこれをリリースしていいものかどうかっていう議論がある程度そのチーム全体でそのオフィシャルであったわけではないですけれども、開発者の中ではやはりその世に出していいクオリティかどう
That's a
か
tough
っていう
thing
と
to
ころ
like.
は
That's a tough conversation to
議論があり
have.
ました。
When 1.0 was getting made, was the mentality that, oh, we're not like, that's like their thing, and we have our very own successful thing over here, we're going to just make another one of those?
Right, and that's really what it felt like, is that we're going to continue doing what we did because it succeeded before, why wouldn't it succeed again? And seeing that direction, them taking that direction, and knowing that, having worked on 11, that yes, they were very successful, seeing the success that they had with Final Fantasy XI, seeing these great creators, creating something that was, revolutionary. But then on the other hand, knowing that what they were doing was, but maybe that worked 6 or 7 years ago, but a lot of things have changed since then. And I think there was even one guy on the localization team.
I think it's a really good
that
thing to bring
got
up
to that
too. Like at that very quick pause, is just technology advances so quickly, especially like in gaming. I think just actually technology in general, because like you look at the state of iPhones now in 2023 compared to where things were like 13 years ago. Like, my goodness gracious, in games especially. 2023 games are just so incredibly different from games 2013, like Xbox One, PS4 were just out kind of thing. So we're talking 2 generations of consoles back for a lot of stuff in the past just like 15 years and 13 years, which is just crazy to see how quickly things evolve from a game perspective. Of 20 years ago, we got Knights of the Old Republic 3, or Knights of the Old Republic 3, 1 and 2. I'm so sorry. I wish there was Knights of the Republic 3. Wishful thinking. And so to see how far things have come from just like the KOTOR games to Dragon Age Origins just like 5 years later is in itself just like impressive. So sorry. And so, yeah, like things that worked 5 years ago in gaming don't really work now. So you have to evolve with the times pretty quickly. So, obviously they kind of learned that lesson the hard way a bit, it seems, from this discussion. But yeah, all right, play.
Point where he just got so frustrated that he just wrote this scathing mail and sent it out to the whole team before telling anyone else on localization he was going to write it. And then we all get it at the same time, the devs team. We're reading, it's like, wow, this is really terrible. I hope he doesn't, he sent it to the whole team. Because he just got really frustrated, because he could, to him, they were being very stubborn. They hadn't moved on. whereas the rest of the world had moved on and adapted, you know, with the release of WoW and what they had done.
Oh my
Whereas,
gosh.
you know, the team here was like, no, we're going to stick with what we know, and that's good enough.
Then start feeling more concerning the situation. I mean, this is not fixed, not fixed, not fixed. Oh, then, you announced the launch date, but it's not fixed. So, but still, some major portion of people are still thinking, still believing, no, it's better, still better. Better phase, last phase, but still better. So it could be, I mean, fixed or changed at the launch timing.
I don't know, if you have a lot of
Kind of
issues
went
to work
from-
through in beta.
Okay, this project's going to be great. To uh-oh, there might be some problems. Can we fix them? Can we fix them? Okay, we can't fix them. Is there anything we can do? I don't know. It was a very taxing experience.
I can only imagine how
The team
that was
crossed
like
their
for
fingers and
everybody.
hoped that the game's beta problems were simply that, the same issues that most MMOs have, ones that could be fixed with patches once the game entered live
Pavolimo.
operations. And so Final Fantasy XIV Online launched on September 30th, 2010. It sold well its first week, and after a month had over 600,000 players swarming into its world.
Wow.
But it didn't take long for the cracks to appear. The problems in the beta were echoed by new players. The game was sluggish, the servers crashed, and Eorzeans quickly ran out of things to do. Quests were limited, and the fatigue system even made grinding for XP next to impossible.
Oh
Critics
no,
hated life
fatigue.
too.
Let's get right down to
System.
it. Unless you've got the patience of Job or some kind of masochist, you shouldn't play Final Fantasy XIV. Its
God.
problems are so vast that I could spend hours talking about them. The awful interface, the recycled content, the stringent limits on questing, the useless maps, the
What a
stupid market ward.
review just
These
there.
issues and dozens more constantly have you asking that age-old question, what were they thinking?
So, what was it like seeing public reaction?
Yeah, it was very, I mean, very disheartening, because you know you'd want to look at those and you'd want to say no, they don't understand, they don't know, you know, what's going on here, or you know, but deep down you'd know they were right, and that was what kind of, you know,
Yeah.
that dagger in your heart and it's twisting, because you know you want to defend what you worked on. I mean, the people that I worked with are the greatest people. I mean, I still, you know, work with a lot of them. I had worked with them before in FF11. I consider them not only coworkers but friends. But you know, and then you see people online, you know, bashing the work they did, and I know how hard they worked. I know how many hours they put in. I know that, like, in the last 3 or 4 months, people were basically living at work, all putting their 100% into this game.
That's what sucks
that
about
was,
seeing something like
you know,
a game or movie or
destined to
series like
kind of
crash
and burn.
and burn,
But, and then to
is
have people online just saying,
knowing
that
that
sucks,
so
this person
much
is a
hard
piece of
work
shit, and their work is terrible.
went into it.
It hurts, but it hurts
Like,
more
it sucks for
because
those people who
if
put
I
that time and
was
effort.
not here and was
energy
a
into
user
it.
and had played that game, I probably would have said the same thing.
そうですね、まあ、当時はね、私CFO だったんで、見てたんですけれども、ローンチのタイミング、やっぱり一番大きく違ったのは、11の時のいろいろごたごたね、と9の14の時のごたごたが一番違うっていうのは、11の時はいろいろごたごたあったけど、ゲームに関して言うと、さすがに相当やっぱり、
Interesting.
受け入れ、ファン、相当のやっぱり。
11 had issues on launch, but it was still received well.
まあ、オペレーション上の、ね、トラブルとかっていろいろ多分あるっていう、まあ、これはある程度つきもので、まあ、大変だったんですけれども、それはあったんですけど、ゲーム内容に関して言うと、非常にまあ評価されたというふうに理解してますけれども、前作の場合の一番やっぱ、私がちょっとまずいなこれって思ったのは、やっぱりゲーム自体の評価が非常に厳しいものだったということですね。これはちょっとやっぱり相当大丈夫かなというのを、まあ、ローンチした後ね、やっぱりそこはね、非常にリアルに感じましたね。それはそうですね、まあ、ローンチして、まあ、しばらく経って、まあ、そんなに長い期間じゃなかったですね。そうしばらくね、やっぱり相当な、
Yeah.
このままで大丈夫なのかという、社内でも相当やってます。
Gonna be a lot of work
I
concern
mean,
if
the
you
first few months
keep that game
was
up.
just
Like,
an
what do you
endless stream
do?
of translating apology mails from, you know, producers and directors and you know, finding out, trying to figure out different ways of saying we're sorry, because the more you say it, the less weight it has.
Yeah.
But Japan being a company or a country where people apologize a lot. That's part of the culture. But then trying to translate that, it's like, okay, this is the 10th time I've said sorry in this one post, and then from the American myself, it's like, yeah, people are going to look at that as insincere. The more you apologize, the more and then trying to explain that to the team, it's like, no, we have to apologize. It's like, yes, you have to apologize, but and it just became, we weren't talking about the game anymore. We were talking about how to translate apologies, and it seemed like that lasted for a couple months.
Actually, we see a huge drop. I mean, right after the launch timing, we got some good number of the subscribers. Again, that fall. I mean, as you can imagine. So I mean, it was failure, and we announced a failure. So we see lots of decline.
さっきも話した通り、実際にはその開発内でも今リリースすべきかっていうか、リリースできるクオリティにあるかっていうのはベータ直前とかベータが始まってもそうなんですけど、常に疑問はあったので、リリースして実際にただ、それまでにチーム内にあった空気はやはり出したら意外と受け入れられる可能性があるんじゃない。
It's such like a wild thing to hear about how it felt like the game shouldn't have been released and should have been pushed back more. And I feel like we feel that so much in 2023 right now with a bunch of games that are released. Looking at you, like Cyberpunk, is that games get released unfinished and then they're rough, and then that's such a hard reputation to build yourself out of, to get yourself out of that hole of. Like, Cyberpunk did that, too, though. Cyberpunk turned it around, for sure, where awful on launch, borderline unplayable for so many people, and then now it's definitely well-regarded. Phantom Liberty just came out. People are loving all of it, which is great. But also, that's not always a reputation you can fix. And I really wish companies would quit having to risk that reputation. If it's finished, release it. If not, don't release it and like potentially just tank the entire game because of it's too many suits.
ないかっていう漠然とした出せばどうにかなるのかも、自分たちが思っているほど悪くないのかもっていう何の根拠もない希望的なものがあったんですね。で出た結果結局そんな魔法は起きなくて、やはり
Yeah, you hope that when it launches that something happens.
まだ世に出すには早いというか、世に出せるクオリティに達していない商品を出してしまったっていう気持ちはみんなにあったので、実際に改善しなきゃっていうか根本的に対応しなきゃいけないっていうところはチーム内に割とすぐ広がったと思ってます。なので特にすごいそんなことはないっていう意見がすごく強くあって、誰かを説得しなきゃいけないみたいなことは特になかったですね。
Man, I still can't believe they turned it around.
Today, Square Enix is based across multiple floors in a modern office complex in Shinjuku, Tokyo. It's a company that is often designing multiple projects at once. And while Final Fantasy XIV was being developed, in another part of the building a different game was being made. Produced by a Final Fantasy fan, his name, Naoki Yoshida.
一番最初はファミリーコンピューターUS だとエンターテインメントシステムかのマリオブラザーズが一番最初にプレイしてる。
That's so cool.
テレビの中、テレビっていうのは見るものだと思っていた子供の時に。ところがマリオブラザーズで初めてコントローラーを握ってゲームをプレイした時に、まずそもそもテレビのものを自分が自由に動かせるっていうことがものすごいショックで、友達の家でプレイさせてもらったんだけど、ものすごい興奮したのを覚えてます。ドラゴンクエストっていう日本で RPG を大きく広めたタイトルを初めて触った時に、アクションではないゲーム、数字のやり取りでこんなにまたさらにゲームが面白くなるんだっていうのを特に
I've heard about Dragon Quest, but I've never actually, I'm not familiar with it at all, but I've heard like it was a very big game for sure.
にものすごくなんだろうフォーカスしていくことになったかなとは思います。当然翌年に出たファイナルファンタジーにも映画的な演出、ファンタジーをより強く打ち出したっていうところにもすごい衝撃を受けてたので、やっぱり 僕の中でドラゴンクエストとファイナルファンタジーっていうのはすごい大きかったですね当時。
Like most Japanese players at the time, Yoshida-san played all the early Final Fantasy games.
Nazi Old
He holds
Republic
them in
1
high
too were my
regard,
first
though he still holds
RPGs
the
and
bitter
just
memory of not
those
being able
set
to save
such a
before the
high
last dungeon in Final Fantasy III.
a
When
high
he was
tone
11
for
years
me when
old,
it comes
a
to
brand new
gaming.
type of gaming
Gotta love
experience
those
arrived
games.
at home. His uncle gave him a PC. On this PC, the young gamer learned how to program BASIC. His first video game centered around trying to break into a bank vault. But this PC also exposed him to a spectrum of gaming that eluded most Japanese players. Western role-playing games. He fell in love with games like Diablo and was stunned when he first went online and played with other players.
でその翌年にウルティマオンラインをベータからプレイし、先輩にとにかくすげえゲームあるって言われてウルティマオンラインをベータから始めたのが初めて MMO をプレイした
1997.
で
Wow.
同じようなその3回目の衝撃、3000人が同時に一つの世界で遊ぶっていうのがもうとてつもないまた衝撃でしたね。まあウルティマは本当に自由度のウルティマオンラインは特にとにかく初期は自由度がめちゃくちゃ高いゲームだったので、そのいわゆるロードの称号をつけたそのなんて言ったらいいんだろうな、すごく紳士的なというかコミュニティリーダー的プレイを完全に悪のプレイヤーキラーをやるキャラクターを
Oh my god.
どっちも
What a
ものすごい遊んでた
griefer.
し、やっぱりその
But I love that.
MMORPG っていうゲームがどう作られているのか、どういったエンジニアリングが必要なのかっていうのもものすごいそこで勉強させてもらったと思います。もうその頃からはコンソール
Gosh.
と同じぐらいの
We've come so far with
で
games.
ゲームをかなり遊ぶようになってたので
We've come so
自分で PC パ
far.
ーツ買ってきて組み立てたりしてたし、でやっぱりそのあたりで FPS もかなりプレイし始めてたし、特に 3DMMO のスタートであるエヴァクエスト
EverQuest.
プレイ
Never played that one,
当
but
時エヴァクエストのパッケージを日本で手に入れるのが本当に大変で、出張で東京に来た時に秋葉原をね時間を作ってゾンビのように店をこううろうろしてエヴァクエストってゲームないんですか
I love that.
って
The search for the game. I feel like we've all been there.
Yoshida-san would embark on a career in games that would eventually see him joining Square Enix to
I feel like we've all been there in the earlier like console days of going like GameStop to Walmart to Target to Hastings, wherever, to find the physical copy of the one game we wanted. Digital copies are now amazing, wonderful. Or Amazon for physical copies, whatever. Like it's not that hard now, but like I remember going like 3 or 4 stores with my parents just trying to find like the one physical copy of a game. So glad they put up with my bullshit as a kid to find them, but just yeah, wild.
to work on the Dragon Quest series. Though he wasn't working on the Final Fantasy team, he was part of the umbrella group that was allocating programmers to various projects. He didn't have granular visibility on FF14, but he knew the team was struggling. I asked from his perspective as a producer where he thought the game's problems were coming from.
まあわかんない、これ広報にカットされるのかもしれないけど
Corporate PR
ミドルウェアを全社でその作ろうとしていたので、
Ah,
いいプログラマーが全部そのチームに各なんだろうゲームラインから招集されて、そのメインプログラマーがみんないないっていう状態になってしまったので、どのプロジェクトもものすごい大変な時期だった。まあオリジナルの14がああなってしまった理由の一つでもあるかなとは思います。さらに2つ大きな問題がそこに絡まっていて、スクエアエニックスその全体にプレイステーション2のジェネレーションで本当に世界一クオリティグラフィックスのクオリティが高い、そしてゲームエクスペリエンスがものすごく詰まったゲームっていうのをたくさんリリースしたので、本当にこうなんていうんだろう、ある意味自信過剰にもうなっていた時期で、自分たちが世界一
let it get to their heads.
自分たちのグラフィックスこそが世界一
They let that reputation get to their heads.
作り方
Interesting.
は
Fair.
その自分たちにしかできない。
Humans.
だから なんだろう、でも超巨大な成功体験ってやっぱり足かせというかにもなる例だと思うんですけど、ものすごくおごってた、まあ、悪い言い方をすればおごってた時期だったと思うんですね。まず例えると、その刀を作る刀匠のような職人たちが本当にたくさんいて、彼らが一つずつを手作りで作って世界一のクオリティを作り上げていたんだけど、
Mm-hmm.
実は世界は、まあ、特にその北米を中心にテクノロジーでそれをカバーするっていうところをずっと追求してきた時期で、プレイステーション3の世代になった瞬間にテクノロジーの方がそれを上回るっていう時期が来たせいで、作り方を変えようとはしないし、
Didn't adapt with the
だけど
times.
テクノロジー
So they kind of covered that already a
追いつけ
little
ない
bit, but yeah.
っていうことから、さらにそれを知ってるはずのプログラマーたちはミドルウェアの制作に行ってるっていう状態で、
Got stuck in their ways, like this has
でも
worked in
グ
the
ラフィック
past,
ス作ってる
so why won't it
アー
work
ティストた
now?
ちは
But
自分たち
then
の作り方こそが世界一だと思ってるので、古い作り方で引き続き
then
もの
that
す
actually
ごく
limits
負荷
you.
のかかるやり方でアセットを作ってたので、もうそれらが絡まってっていうのが、まあもう一つの大きな、さっき2つあるって言った問題の1つ目がそれですね。もう一つは、プライドはいついかなる時でもとても大切なものだとは思うんですけど、そこにやっぱり超巨大な成功体験をしたっていうこと自体が乗っかってきちゃうと、その自分たち
Uh-huh.
の作るゲー
Yeah.
ムこそがベスト
Yeah,
で
yeah,
あって、他をあんまり見る必要がないっていう時期でもあったんじゃないかなと思
Yeah.
っていて、例えば当時世界多分 MMORPG を知ってる人に
Yeah, absolutely. World of Warcraft had like
MMORPG
such a
は何ですか
chokehold in the
100 人がワールド・オブ・ウォークラフトって言ったはずなのに、誰もプレイしてない。
market for so long.
これはワールド・オブ・ウォークラフトを知ってるか知ってないかっていう話だけの話をしてるんじゃなくて、その自分たちが世の中に対して新しいそのビデオゲームをリリースしようとするときにライバルになるタイトルは何だろうとか、ユ
Yeah.
ーザーは今プレイヤーはどこにそのゲー
Ah,
ムエクス
Mr.
ペリエンスの
Pandaria, good
最
times.
新の状態をプレイしてるんだろうっていうのを知らないっていうのが、その感覚として僕には結構信じられない。
Yeah,
なんでもっ
it's
とみん
not
なゲー
that
ムプレイしないの？
you
だって
should be
自分たちが
modeling
どの辺
after.
りにいるか分かんなくなっちゃうよっていうのが、まあ
Wow, but like at the same time, you gotta know what's
関しては
working
もちろ
so
ん
well
ファ
for
イ
them
ナ
to
ルファ
have
ンタジー
such a
超巨大
chokehold,
な成功体験っていうのが邪魔をしたっていうのもある
such
と
a
は
strong
思うんだけど、
market share. You have to
あの当時
understand
は
like what
エヴァ
they're
ケースを
doing,
徹底的にプレイをして、だからこそ11を作った
not
は
so
ず
you
な
can
のに、
emulate it
新
one
しい
for
レストラン
one.
をオープンするときに隣にある
But
レ
at
ス
the
トラ
same
ン
time,
が
like
どんなメニューを出していて、どんなサービスをしてるかを知らずにレストラン作る回転させる人はい
You
ないんじゃ
can't
ないって
reinvent the entire wheel.
So, just at the launch stage then of 1.0, what was the feeling within Square Enix? The beta was quite close to launch. Were people anticipating that there would be negative feedback, or were they less aware that that was going to happen? I guess.
僕は他のチームにいて、すごくベータの評判が悪いっていうのはネットでニュースは見てましたね。ただ多かれ少なかれ MMORPG のローンチは絶対にまあ荒れやすい。
Yeah,
サー
MMO
バーが
launches,
すぐ
internet
落
goes
ちるとか
crazy.
まあ
Yeah.
ストレステストをやってるけど、プレイヤーの方は遊びたいからやっぱりサーバーが落ちるとやっぱりすごく文句を言って当然だと思いますし、だから僕もやっぱり11を作ったチームだから、まあそうは言っても11のやっぱり完成度が高いので、そこと比較をしてあの機能がないこの機能がないっていう話をしてるのかなっていうふうに思ってた。僕は僕自身の開発が忙しかったのもあって、
Mhm.
ただそれも少しずつ収まっていくんだろうなっていうふうに僕は当時は見てた。ただ別の角度、今度はそのオリジナルの14チームの中のその視点としては、このままだと本当にまずいもっと時間をかけて品質を上げないとっていう、もちろん声を上げる人たちもいたけれど、
So
会
interesting.
社ってまあ全体の判断としてはファイナルファンタジー11のスタートもそうだったと。機能たくさんなかったし、
Well, that's how it was for this, so it'll be fine if it happens again.
パッチでどんどん直していって
Nah.
11は完成したんだから14も大丈夫だと、最初は絶対こうなんだっていう風に判断したのでベータを終わらせてリリースへ踏み切ったっていうのが当時のジャッジだったって、僕はチームに入ってからインタビューをしてそれを確認したので、チームの中ではやっぱり議論はあったそうです。あのままじゃダメ、まずいっていう話は。ただ最終的なジャッジは今お話しした通り、
You gotta listen to your developers. They know the stuff.
続けてああなったじゃないか。
They know it. Too many
Eventually, Corporate
suits.
realized that this wasn't usual launch problems, so they called on a few select members of the team to create a task force. This task force would research what changes the game needed and the resources the development environment would require to do the work.
It's not Square Enix is at all like
corporations
corporations for games. Listen to your developers. You don't know more than them.
The team was going to make the changes required. In October of 2010, Yoshida-san talked to the then Square Enix president Yoichi Wada and suggested they initiate a company-wide emergency to get the team the resources they needed. Wada-san spent a few days talking to the 14 development team about their concerns, and while a lot of the team had suggested that the current task force was in fact up to the task, some members of the 14 team had pleaded to have Yoshida-san join the project to help. And so it transpired that in late November, corporate took the decision to remove Hiromichi Tanaka from the team and move Nobuaki Komodo from director to lead designer. Both of their vacant positions would be filled by Yoshida-san. At that time, he was leading a team that was working on an original IP for Square Enix. He was disappointed to leave that team, but excited for the opportunity to work on one of the company's crown jewels, a numbered Final Fantasy game. So, he got right to work.
やらなきゃいけないことが当時3つあると思ってて、まあ、順番にやってったんですけど、まずそのチームにまあ、オリジナルのチームにトップが変わります。で、あとそのタスクフォースメンバーもそのまま開発コアとしてリードに入りますっていう当然話をしなきゃいけない全チームに。ただ僕はドラゴンクエスト側のゲームを開発することが多かったので、そのほとんどのスタッフを知らないというか、まあ顔と名前ぐらいは知ってるスタッフはいたけど、その一緒に仕事したことがある人がほとんどいなかったので、まず「Say hello」っていうところからで、一度もみんな仕事したことがないから、どんな仕事をする人間なのかを見てくれればいいよってまずで、あ、こいつダメだと思ったらチーム抜けて構わないからっていう話を最初にして、一緒に仕事してみよう。でも1回はいいよねって。でそれでダメだと思ったら本当すぐ抜けて構わないから3ヶ月ぐらいまず一緒にやろうよっていう話を僕スピーチでした記憶があります。
You don't have to be here, but let's give it a moment to see if we mesh.
もう一回チャレンジするよ。まだ当然その時その申請するなんて話はまだ計画がなかったので、とにかく立て直しをやるよと、ギブアップはしないよっていう話をした時に、
Okay.
僕を知ってる何人かはよしやるぞっていう。
Didn't immediately go like, let's just nuke it all, but
もう無理だよっていう人たちと、
but at the same time, hey, we're making some
なんだよ
changes.
この急な体制変更って言って、まあ怒ってる雰囲気の人たちとっていうのが大体のその時の雰囲気でした。まあそんな中で今も14のサウンドディレクターやってるソケンが、まあその話をしてた時と大きなホールだったんですけど、2階のサウンドブースで僕のマイクの調整とかやってくれてて、そのソケンがあいつだけですよやり直すぞっていうか、そのリベンジするぞって言ったらガッツポーズしてたのはあいつだけです。今でも覚えてます。おっしゃーってやってたねあいつ。
Sakin was like, I'm in.
I saw the, oh my God, we just went through a year of hell, and now he's asking us to go through a year and a half of hell.
Yeah, like that's a lot.
this
That's
point
not
that might,
easy.
Be another failure, because no one had taken a game and rebuilt it in this manner before. So basically, he's saying like, yeah, you just have to trust me, and yeah, you could waste another year and a half of your life, and it could be a failure, and but you're gonna have to believe me on this one. And so yeah, a lot of people are like, I can't do this anymore. I don't know, and I can understand that because again,
honestly, I would be the very
on
same.
The other hand,
like,
there were, a lot of us, myself included, but a lot of people on the team that were like,
hindsight's 2020, but
we worked so hard on this, and we did
As someone
our
who's
jobs the best
been
that we
burnt
could,
out through
but for
work
a
because
lot
just
of,
working
reasons,
so much
some
and so
circumstances
hard.
that were out of our control. Decisions made by higher ups, decisions
So
made
do
by
all
other
that
teams
work,
that, affected our work.
See
nothing we could
failure,
do about
and
it.
it's like, well, let's
But
do
we
another
put
year and a
our
half and
all
see if we
into it,
can't make
we
things
were
better.
invested in the
It's like, bruh, no.
and we still believed in the
I
project.
wanna sleep.
To have someone from the outside come in, and not just come in to say, okay, forget it, we're just going to do it my way or the highway. He's like, he asked our opinions. He laid out a roadmap. He gave us a vision and a hope. And even though it seemed like it would be difficult to achieve, it didn't seem inconceivable.
Yoshi P knew there was no time to wait. He worked
Yoshi
with
P
corporate to
definitely
make sure the team
went
had
about
time
a lot
off,
of it in
both
the
for
right
them to
way.
relax, but also to give him time to build his new
Oh, that's
vision,
good. Okay.
to do research playing other MMOs, and to help draft his plan.
Give
to
some
deliver
time
the
off.
vision and how the team was going to do it. They had
Take a
very
step
little
back,
time to
think
fix
about
this
it,
game, so
and
once
let's
they
get into
started,
it.
the specifications document would have to be watertight. And as captain of the ship, he needed to be able to answer every question the team may have, quickly.
Yoshida-san was now at the helm of his first Final Fantasy, and as an avid MMO fan, he was looking forward to getting in there and fixing it. What he couldn't have known at this stage was the scale of the job ahead of him, that no matter how much they patched Final Fantasy XIV Online, they couldn't ever fix it. What they'd have to do was something that no developer had ever done, to rebuild an entire MMO while the original version was still running.
Wild,
I don't
dude.
think that they realized
Wild.
that it was something that couldn't be solved via patches. I think they still believe that if we patch it, it'll be fine. And it wasn't until they reevaluated and then brought in the new blood. Yoshida-san came in and told them, okay, yeah, this is not something that can be patched. If we want to fix this, we're going to have to take a drastic step.
Like, it's
Yoshida
good
spent 7 weeks
to
researching
recognize
and returned
that.
with 2 options for corporate. It was then he realized that it would be impossible to convert the
Like,
current game
to
into an MMO
recognize
could
that
last the
and to
test of
make that
time.
decision
Ultimately, though, this was a
and to
decision
pitch
that
it.
corporate had to make. So he returned with not
Like,
one,
that's-
but 2 plans.
that's huge.
Plan A and Plan B.
It's
During
not
this
easy.
meeting, he explained that Plan A would be to patch the game and make it more playable, but that ultimately the game would never really satisfy players, and though Square Enix may make their money back, the damage to the online brand would be catastrophic.
Yeah.
Then there was Plan B.
今のファイナルファンタジー当時のオリジナルのファイナルファンタジー14をパッチを当ててそのできる限りポジティブに遊べるものにしながら裏で全く新しいそのファイナルファンタジー14をもう
That's
一
so
度作り直す
crazy.
っていうのが
Like,
プラン B でまあその話だけを聞くとまあそんなバカなってなるので当然どうやってそれを達成するかチームを2つに分けてでどういったそのマネジメントスタイルでそれをやるのかで大体発売時期はプレイステーション3版を
I'm
リリー
just-
スするっていうのがプレイヤーとの約束だったのでプレイステーション3の寿命が来る前にリリースしなきゃい
it
けない
still
ので
blows my mind that they
2012年年末
put
から
that
2013
trust
年
and
中
faith in
には
him
リリースできる
to-
この計画であればってい
to do
う
it.
プレゼンテーションをしてリスクは高いただ当然そんなことをしたことはないゲー
Like-
ム業界でしかも同じタイトルで作り直してるから
That's so
成功
wild
うまくい
that
った
they
としても
would
成功するかどうかはわからない
go
ただ
with
少
it.
なくともやっぱりファイナルファンタジーってクレイジーだねとかすごいことするねとか少なくとも
It
自分たち
really
がミスしたことを認めて
I can't get over it. I really can't get
信
over
頼を
the
取り
fact that
戻そう
they,
としたっていう努力は見てくれてる人は多分見て
after
くれる
the
だろう
stubbornness that corporate
だから
showed,
どっちをチョイスするかは会社に任せる
that they
ただ
were
どっち
able
や
to
っても
just
全
be
力
like,
でやる
okay,
っていう話をプレゼンテーション
do it.
して、
Do option B.
まあ、結果的にはねプラン B でって言ってくれたんで今こうなってますけど
I just it feels like that just would never happen for any corporate group, you know?
Final Fantasy XIV 1.0 was in a state of disarray. Square Enix had decided to suspend subscriptions to help ease the negativity around the game, while
I'm
the
glad it
PS3
worked.
version was indefinitely postponed. For the next 2 years, Yoshida-san and his team would work tirelessly on not one, but 2 MMOs,
But it does
matching
blow
the
my
original
mind.
1.0 to fans' expectations, while secretly working on a brand new version of Final Fantasy XIV. In our next episode, we focus on that 2-year period and tell
that
the
Nero?
incredible story of the falling moon of Dalamud, the death of 1.0, and the birth of a new Eorzea.
Out freaking standing. That was a great, that was a really awesome part 1. NoClip, amazing work. Amazing work. I'm so blown away that this worked. The decision to, we'll patch 1.0, but at the same time we're going to build pretty much a whole new MMO in the background, and then launch that, and really hope that this kind of like this 2.0 with a different like graphic system, rewrite, like the fact that that worked still just blows my mind. Cause one of the patrons is a potato, amazing. Like, I think we can all agree here that it working is just truly one of the, I think one of the best gaming accomplishments ever. This is one of the best gaming accomplishments ever. To completely turn around this MMO. Absolutely. There's no way it's not. There's no way this is not one of the best gaming accomplishments like of all time. And I think that really solidifies just like how wonderful this game is that was able to work. And I think as players of it, it's definitely felt through it all that this turnaround worked. Because why should it have worked? Why should it have worked? Hindsight 2020 is an amazing thing, and it's like, yes, that was the right decision and everything, but like to take that risk, that chance in the moment, that's nuts. It's ridiculous. It's truly ridiculous. But damn, am I so happy that it worked. Because I've been loving Final Fantasy XIV. A Realm Reborn has been absolutely wonderful. I know people are saying, like, don't worry, it's a bit of a slog, but once you get to Heaven's Ward, it takes off. Like, I've been so enthralled with ARR. Granted, again, like, I played World of Warcraft for 16 years, starting with Vanilla WoW. And if you know Vanilla WoW, you know that there's not really a story there or anything to kind of, like, get you going. And so to have like that story in ARR, that's pretty wild for me. And that's been wonderful. The characters are great. Voice acting is limited. I feel like it's just like take a drink every time you get voice acting in ARR and you will be sober almost the entire time, you know. But it's wonderful when it does happen. Like but at the same time, like the WoW didn't have voice acting for the longest time. Not like that. Final Fantasy XIV is truly a special game. Not only for its storytelling and its world, but also for its community, especially, and the development cycle that it had, the history that it had. Like, this is nuts. And I'm so very looking forward to parts 2 and 3. NoClip, thank you so much for this documentary. Fantastic. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Y'all have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you soon. Stay cheeky. Also, like, subscribe if you enjoyed this reaction. I've got plenty of other Final Fantasy XIV related reactions up. There will be a Flames of Truth trailer reaction coming up soon. I'm getting closer and closer to finishing the patches of ARR MSQ, which means we're going to get a Heaven's Ward reaction coming up soon. And my gameplay is posting every week. Not, I wish every day. Every week, I'm posting my gameplay from Final Fantasy XIV, which you can find me over at Twitch as well at TWERK2016 as I play through it. If you don't want to wait around on YouTube. So, thanks for watching. Stay cheeky. See you soon.